Good morning, this is Devin Lockett, and I want to do a video this morning about owning your virtue. Owning your virtue is a very important thing to do, especially for young men, and I'm speaking especially to young black men, because we're in a situation here in the United States where we can sit back and reflect and separate reality from fiction. And a lot of our reality in the United States is based on what the fictions that have been produced are telling us about ourselves. In other words, if you look at the media sources, you'll find that black men are being defined in a not too flattering light. And that's concerning to me, because I see that black men are very virtuous as human beings, but that's not what's being touted as being representative of the race. So this is a good time, now that we're in this quarantine and we're all staying home and thinking about our life. Now I remember, I'm not trying to give my age up, but I remember when I was young, we had a little bit more control over our images. Over the images that represent us in the media. And now we don't. Now that's completely been put into the hands of others from outside of our culture. And I think this is a very important time for us as black men to reflect on what happened along the way. How did we lose soul and R&B, and how did all of our arts become gangsterized? How come everything has got a thug flavor to it? Why has that particular negative, destructive subculture of African American culture been lifted to become representative of black culture in the United States? This is a very important thing for us to pay attention to, because the media from the United States, especially film and television, is broadcast across the entire world. And the impression that people around outside of the United States, around the world, have of the United States is what they see on TV and what they see in the movies. Right now, we're at a time where our country has got more foreign-born residents than it's ever had. And more legal and illegal immigrants are pouring into the country every day. This is concerning to me. That combination of that perfect storm, right? That combination of scenarios is very concerning to me, because not only have we had to deal with historic racism and oppression among the other inhabitants of our nation, now we are being inundated with people who are carrying these incorrect images and understandings of us and our culture. And our children are also being raised in a world where they're learning to understand themselves in this most negative light. So I think this time is a good time for us to sit back and reflect and ponder the difference between what's real and what's not real. What we really are as men and as human beings versus what we are portrayed to be. And we shouldn't passively sit back and say, oh, well, this is just the media and this is market-driven, because it's not just the media and it's not market-driven. It is the media that has the most intense impact upon the human psyche of anything else that faces our world. People don't read as much as they used to anymore, and people kind of have become lazy. So what's being fed to them in video is the truth as they understand it. So this is a good time for us to take control of our image, take control of the imagery that defines us to the world, and take control of how we are represented, both in video and television and print and magazines, movies. This is important for us to think about, and to redefine ourselves, to be able to define ourselves. And the way we can do this, one way we can do this, is by owning our virtue. Okay? So it is a very important time for us to take charge of the messages that go out that represent us, the imagery that represents us, and we shouldn't passively sit back and say, oh, well, this is market driven and they're just giving the people what they want. No, this is by design, okay? The people who control the media have a vested interest in keeping Black America and white America at war with each other. It's an old game called divide and conquer. So they keep young Black men afraid of the white boogeyman, and they keep white America in a state of fear and loathing of Black Americans as being impulsive and ignorant and violent and emotional children that are never expected to grow to manhood in American society. It's time for this to stop. This is the age of political correctness. This is the age of acceptance of others' cultures. But we're still allowing our culture to be spat upon daily. And this is the time for us to spend time with our families and to think about who we are, reflect on who we are, and reflect on the fact that the majority of us, the vast majority of us, are not thugs, are not gangsters, we're not miscreants, and we're not oversexed children, that we are actually men in the world and in this society. And it's time for us to take our rightful place as American men in our society. Which brings me to another subject, hyphenated citizenship. We are not African Americans. We are Americans who are Black. And many of us were here before Columbus. So our connection to Africa is even weaker than white Americans' connection to Europe. They're not called European Americans, so we shouldn't allow ourselves to be called African Americans. We should not allow ourselves to be put on equal par with people who have just come into this country from outside. Our race does not put us on equal status to immigrants. This is a very important thing for us to understand. It's time for us, as Black men, to wake up, to own our virtue as good fathers, as good men, as good husbands, as good sons, as good people, as good employers, as good employees, as good friends, as simply good human beings, because that is what I see among my brothers, and that's the way we should represent ourselves in the world. Now, hopefully it's not quite as noisy as it was by the fountain. So I hope you don't mind if I repeat a couple of the things that I was saying earlier. Here in the United States, we've got a situation where our representation in the media has been out of our hands for too long. And the definition of our culture, right? Our culture has been defined by outsiders for too long. And, I remember Bill Cosby speaking on this a few years ago when he was talking about the alliance between certain individuals who were definitive of hip-hop culture. This is more important than just entertainment, okay? Because I didn't grow up in a world within which it was appropriate to refer to Black women, for example, in the terms that are obviously acceptable by hip-hop culture. And this is very destructive. This is very destructive to us as human beings. It's very destructive to humanity in general. And it's very destructive to Black Americans in particular. Okay? And this is a good time. This is a good time for us to reflect upon these things and to ask ourselves, what kind of a world are we going to build once this pandemic is over? What are we going to do? How are we going to represent ourselves? Is it still okay to have these miscreants representative of our culture in this way? I don't think so. I don't think it is. I think it's time for us to regain control, regain creative control over our image and our images and over how we're represented in the world. And I believe that YouTube and all of the other media are new media, YouTube and the new media provide us with the perfect opportunity to self-define. This is absolutely important. And self-definition does not only involve, creating things like I'm creating the images that represent us. It also means that we have an opportunity, we have a responsibility to step up and speak up when offensive media are created, offensive images are projected on our behalf. In fact, I don't see any other culture or society that allows us to come in and define them and define their culture. So I really don't think it's appropriate for us to allow others, in the name of entertainment, to come in and define us as people under in such a negative framework. I think it's something that we need to think about, and it's something that we need to talk about, and it's something that we need to act on. Okay? Who's with me? So in that sense, I think this is a good break for us. This is a good break for us as Americans and as people to sit back and take a break from the active hustle and bustle of the world that we that we have become accustomed to, and all of the nonsense that has been going on around us. Like I said, specifically with reference to the images that represent us to the world, and realize how little that has to do with the reality of who we are, and also realize how destructive that is, that these images are projected not only into the eyes and ears of our children, recycling the social ills that plague our society for generations to come, but that how they're also broadcast across the world, defining us as Black Americans in such a negative light for the whole world to see. How could we let this happen? How could we let this come to be? How could we let the representation of such a beautiful and passionate and creative people deteriorate into thuggery and hate and violence and self-loathing and misogyny and substance abuse and sexual debauchery and lack of impulse control? I mean, I really don't like what I see being represented as the culture of Black Americans. And so this is a good time for us to think about it. This is a good time for us to ponder on reality versus fiction, and not to be so busy in our lives that we just buy the next CD and bob our head to the rhythm of our own self-destruction, of our own self-genocide. Okay? Take a little bit more responsible role in the projection of our media images to the world, and deliberately take back control over our image from those who have taken it from us. I guess these things become more important when you have young eyes looking at you and young minds needing you to mold them into the future. So I'm going to be making more videos about these thoughts of mine, and I'm going to put them out to the world, and I'm going to put them out as they come to me. So I can't say that you should expect them on a particular schedule, but you should expect them pretty regularly and pretty frequently, because every time I express myself, the better I feel, and that's That's more important to me than the monetization of this channel or of anything, or money in general. But here go the church bells again. And we've had our morning walk, right, Pat?
Yep.
So we're practicing our social distancing, and we're preparing ourselves for a wonderful and productive day. I'd like you to subscribe to Devin Lockett, this channel. Also subscribe to Devin Lockett TV, which is a separate channel here on YouTube. And most importantly, BiomedRx TV, because we're going to be making videos today, actually, for BiomedRx TV. If you like this video, remember to hit like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to provide some monetary support for our projects and also have access to videos that are not accessible to YouTube alone, then please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Devin Lockett and patreon.com/BiomedRx TV. And as always, I would like everyone to stay kind, because kind is the new sexy. Stay blessed and stay healthy. Thank you for watching Devin Lockett.